So one of the things you have to do when you lead a service is come up with a name for it so it can go in the Thursday update. It's often the hardest part, honestly. But this one, Amy and I, we came up with the title, I Can Work With That. And it's an idea that came out of a conversation over breakfast one morning. We were talking about love and how we all tell different stories about love, and specifically about how neither Amy or I is really a believer in those stories of love at first sight. And so I was thinking back to 1989 when we first met at our college newspaper. And I said, maybe for us it was more of a, well, I can work with that at first sight. And yeah, I said it to be a bit of a smartass, which I'm sure comes as a surprise to all of you. But I also said it because it's true. Love isn't handed to us in a flash, in a burst of color and symphony. Love is seeing what and who is around us and imagining who and what we might become together.
As Amber Nicole Brooke writes in Love is Largely an Act of Imagination, we all take things, words, promises, desires, gestures, silences, and assign them meaning and value in our imaginations. We create meaning where there is none. We create meaning to create stories of us. We create meaning to create new dreams. I now believe love is largely an act of imagination, a creative process of building meaning, imagining a relationship, and placing it into an abstract realm outside of any literal facts. It's contemplation. It's a bestowal of value so creatively woven from strands of daydreaming that it permeates all windows of the psyche. This is true, but again, it is not a literal truth, not a fact. In my love, in my falling in love, a string of promises, beliefs, and ambitions wove together to elevate the idea of our partnership in my imagination. This is to be in love.
A string of promises, beliefs, ambitions woven together. This is love. And each week, in our worship together, in our time together, we take a moment to mark the joys, the sorrows, the promises, beliefs, the moments of our lives that have woven together into who we are. If you have a joy or a sorrow you would like to share here in the sanctuary today, we will bring a mic to you. Please state your name and briefly share your joy or sorrow. If you are online, we're having technical issues, technical times we like to call them, so we cannot get audio. But please type into the chat if you have a joy or sorrow to share, and we will share it here with everyone. Are there any joys and sorrows to share here this afternoon? Polly.
My name is Polly, she, her, whatever. I have a joy and a sorrow. One is, gosh, it's good to see you back home again. Yeah.
Thank you, Polly. It is good to be home.
Love me some Chad, even though you're still a white dude.
That seems permanent.
The other is I have a friend who's going through a lot right now. Kind of a culmination, or however you say that, of a lifetime challenge with family. And she's just the best person ever. So if you could send some strength and support her way, I would love that. That's none of your business. It's a secret. Oh, okay.
I'm Marie, she, her, and today is my granddaughter's 15th birthday. So that means I am old. My grandson's going to be 18 in September. He'll be a senior in high school. So it's a good thing I have that 3-year-old grandson now with my younger daughter, our younger daughter, because that makes me feel like I'm 70.
Yeah, I'm not sure 3-year-olds make you feel younger. Anyone else? Wendy.
I'm Wendy, she, her, and my daughter graduated yesterday with a bachelor's degree as a nurse.
Anyone else here
Is there anything in chat?
before we check? Nobody on Zoom? Okay. Take a breath. And let us hold these joys and sorrows, struggles with family, success, graduation, and a whole future. Getting older, which is more exciting when you're 3 and 15 than it is when you're 55 or 70. And all of the joys and sorrows that have not been shared but that are held close to our hearts. Rumi wrote of love and imagination. Love and imagination are magicians who create an image of the beloved in your mind, with which you share your secret, intimate moments. This apparition is made of nothing at all. But from its mouth comes the question, am I not your loved one? And from you the soft reply, yes, yes, yes. Blessed be.
Even though this is just a two-person play, sometimes I'm not the co-star. Sometimes I'm not even on stage. After 30 years of marriage, I'm just starting to learn the lesson that sometimes Chad isn't thinking about me. This may sound a little harsh, but actually it's rather freeing. This shift in perspective is helping me realize that when Chad is frustrated or annoyed or mad, it's not necessarily about me. And yes, this also applies to recognizing that I'm not always the cause of his positive emotions and experiences, but I may not be quite motivated to explore that insight yet. I think most of us feel we're the hero of our own stories, and that everyone else is a supporting character in our story, or maybe just an extra, or in the audience. It's so hard to imagine that there are an infinite number of other stories simultaneously happening where we're not the main character. We may just be a prop or scenery. A mundane example of how I center myself in Chad's story is that I get annoyed when I see Chad cleaning the kitchen. The feeling arises before my mind has a chance to kick in and think, Amy, you're being silly and irrational and unreasonable. I think part of this feeling is territorial. Even though I'm hardly Martha Stewart, I feel like the kitchen is mine because I'm the one who's always eating and so always looking for or assembling food. But I also can't help but imagine that Chad is thinking, Amy does a crappy job cleaning the kitchen when he's cleaning something up. Maybe sometimes he thinks that, but I bet most of the time he just thinks, hey, this should be cleaned. Imagination is the magical means that empowers us to see the world through another's perspective. I don't think it's possible to have empathy without imagination. But for me, it's far too easy to get wrapped up in imagining how someone is feeling or thinking about me. It's hard for me to really believe that I just may be a part of whatever they are considering or contemplating, or I may not even be in their equation. Sometimes our imagination can take us down dubious paths. At some point during the middle years of Chamie, we realized that we were having fights that Chad wasn't actually present for. I don't think I said that, Chad observed when I referenced something he had supposedly said. I don't think we even had a fight about that. Oh, yeah, I clarified. And that's just what I knew you would say, so I didn't bother actually talking to you about this. Well, Chad and I agree that I probably am usually right when I imagine what he would say, and that we can both save time if I just go ahead and have the fight for the both of us in my head. I now try to sometimes make the effort to include him in a real-world argument. Who knows, my imagined responses for him may be wrong. And even if I'm right in playing the role of Chad, it's still good to sometimes make him do the work of being a participant. I can't imagine love without imagination. I need imagination to understand Chad's point of view and to understand he has his own story. And we both need imagination to create a story of us and to imagine who we are together and to make sense of who we have been and who we want to be. Most of all, I sometimes need imagination to believe that it's even possible for Chad and I to love each other in all our messiness and weirdness, and that it's possible love to survive and thrive when the world feels just too hard and mean. I don't think my powers of imagination will ever be strong enough to understand why Chad gets angry that he has to eat lunch. But I can at least imagine a world where we successfully share life together anyway.
I get mad about having to eat lunch because we were promised a pill that would take care of all the meals if we didn't want to eat. And we didn't get it, and I didn't get my flying car, and I'm mad about all of it. It's a different sermon, possibly a lawsuit. Sometimes, maybe lots of times, as we get older, we get used to the world as it is, or at least how we think it is. Our imagination gives way to what we like to call the real world. Maybe it's just getting comfortable with our own situations, or it's inertia, or maybe it's disappointment over hopes that never quite came to life. But something in us makes it a little too easy for us to dismiss fanciful ideas of love lived fiercely. That this love lived fiercely might change us, might change the world. It's so unrealistic, naive, silly. But sometimes, if we're lucky, a little girl and her giraffe are there to shift our perspective.
And this is Love by Sophia by Jim Averbeck and Yasmin Ismail. Today's assignment: draw something you love. Ms. Paradigm said. Sophia scooped up her crayons. She knew just what she would draw. But when she shared her work with Noodle, you're right, too ordinary. You're right, humdrum. You're right, better, but still too flat. Arrgh, art is hard. Problem? Asked Ms. Paradigm. It doesn't look right, said Sophia. It doesn't feel real. Maybe you could use a little perspective, said Ms. Paradigm. Perspective? Asked Sophia. What's that? Your paper is flat, but our world is wider, higher, and deeper than that. To make your art feel real, you must see in all these dimensions. Look closely. Closely? Sophia hugged Noodle tightly and gazed up the length of his tall neck. Noodle's ossicones look tiny, she thought. But as Noodle bent down for a kiss, his ossicones appeared bigger and bigger. The same thing looks bigger close up, smaller farther away, said Sophia. Exactly, said Ms. Paradigm. To a bird flying over Noodle, his head would look huge, but his hooves small. Exactly, said Ms. Paradigm, a bird's eye view. But at his feet, his hooves look huge and his head small. Hey, that's a worm's eye view. What you see depends on where you are looking from, said Sophia. Exactly. That's why when you see from someone else's viewpoint, we say you've gained perspective. But to make great art, you must find a perspective that's all your own. Sophia did. Perfect, she said. Noodle twitched an ear. You're right, Sophia said. This picture belongs on the refrigerator. This was no ordinary claim, because this was no ordinary fridge. It was the Whitney, the Guggenheim, the Louvre Museum of all refrigerators. It was also a brand new double-door stainless steel cool kit. Not a scratch, not a dent, not a smidge of sticky tape residue. It would be a tough sell to the selection committee. Mother, a judge. Father, a businessman. Uncle Conrad, a politician. And hardest of all, the head curator, Grandmama, who held severe attitudes about art. Sophia approached Mother first. I call this piece Love. May I hang it on the refrigerator, please? This work feels incomplete, Mother said. It's simply a fancy letter O. There are 3 more letters in love. And 100 more ways to look at art, Sophia argued. Hanging it will leave fingerprints, said Mother. I therefore issue an injunction against the display. That's censorship, said Sophia. That's stainless, replied Mother. Sophia looked so sad that Mother showed leniency. Go ask your father. I don't see love, Father said. You're looking at it wrong, said Sophia. Father turned it around and round and round and round. I'm sorry, he said. Abstract art doesn't hold value. But love is priceless, said Sophia. Not on the free market, said Father. You might have better luck in the public sector. Ask your uncle. Public art is a public good, Sophia said. I call this piece love. May I hang it on the refrigerator, please? Uncle Conrad convened a blue ribbon panel. After much consideration, they returned their decision. I'm sorry, said Uncle Conrad, but this piece looks like a 0. Are you saying love is nothing? We cannot commit public space to an idea so radical, so avant-garde. That's the wrong point of view. Uncle Conrad shrugged. Mr. Bunn suggests any painting called Love should feature safe, delicious carrots, and he will change his vote if you add some. Never, said Sophia. Sophia was despondent. How can we make them see my perspective? One committee member remained. Sophia and Noodle concocted a plan. Sophia presented her work to Grandmama. I call this piece of art love, she said. May I? Art? Cried Grandmama. A 6-year-old could do this. Sophia refrained from pointing out that a 6-year-old had. I can't abide abstract art, said Grandmama. Art should express emotion and elevate us. It should look realistic, like something you see every day. I do see this every day, said Sophia. It's a noodle eye view. Elevate her. With that, Noodle swooped down and lifted Grandmama on high, where, with a little perspective, she finally saw the love. A masterpiece, she told the committee. We are so lucky to have it in the collection. But I refuse to let this be displayed on the refrigerator. It deserves a place of higher honor. Waiting by Reverend Marta Valentine. Step into this center. Come in from the margins. I will hold you here. Don't look back or around. Feel my arms. The water is rising. I will hold you as you tremble. I will warm you. Don't look out or away. Life is here between you and me. In this tiny space, where I end and you begin, hope lives. In this precious tiny space, no words need be whispered to tell us we are one. You and I make the circle if we choose to. Come, step in. I am waiting for you.
For each child that's born, each child, every child, a morning star rises and the universe sings. We began our worship here this afternoon with those words. We come back to them now because for all their beauty, all their power, all their celebratory hope for each life that comes into this world, they are not true. Not yet. Or maybe, hopefully, it is more accurate to say they are true, but we do not live that truth. We have not made them true. We have not made them real. They are still the stuff of imagination. For some in this nation, they still may feel beyond imagining. 5 years ago today, a white police officer slowly murdered George Floyd at the intersection of Chicago and 38th in Minneapolis. That this could happen before our very eyes. That this killing of a black man at the hands of the state, our democracy, our government, us, that this could happen and was not an isolated event, was for many of us beyond our own imagining. And that was, I'm afraid 5 years later it still is, the problem. It was beyond our imagining in white America, even liberal white America. That it could happen, that this kind of tragedy could keep happening, was, I think, a failure of imagination. A failure of those of us who have relative power to imagine the ways power was being abused and inflicted on black and brown bodies. A failure to imagine the frustration, the fear, the fury held by so many of our neighbors, our fellow Americans, our fellow human beings, over a promise of equality and dignity enshrined in our founding documents. A promise that has certainly never been kept, and probably was never even meant. It was a failure of imagination to envision a nation, a world where that promise is real, a failure to imagine what we need to do, what we still need to do, centuries into this American idea, 5 years after we watched the man die slowly on a 9-minute loop. To change the words of our founding documents from a comforting lie into a promise we could fulfill. A few years before George Floyd's murder, 4 black women artists, Natasha Marin, Amber Flame, Rachel Ferguson, and Imani Sims, conceived of an art piece that they called Black Imagination. They asked black people and other people of color from around the world to record themselves answering 3 questions. One of those questions was this: imagine a world where you are loved, safe, and valued. Now, the original art installation was simply a dark room. You could walk in and you could hear the voices answering these questions. But some of those answers were eventually collected and curated into a book titled Black Imagination. We'd like to close our worship here this morning, or this afternoon, still getting used to that, with some of those voices.
And this is from Kenyatta J.P. Garcia, Albany, New York. If I felt safe, valued, and/or loved, I wouldn't be the person you know of as me. I was raised up with fear. The hood was a scary place to grow up. I was brought up as disposable. Little queer Negroes like me aren't worth much in this country, and I don't think I know what love is. Maybe not even platonic or brotherly love. Safe for me usually means being alone. My value in this world isn't about me, it's about my work. I am what I can produce. Love is a lie. I think if I could find a more ideal world for myself, I wouldn't even want to live there. I am my struggles and solitude. I don't trust safety. I devalue value, and love is an extreme version of joy. I'm not here to be happy, but if others can be, I'm here for that.
Adrian LaFay, Seattle. Even when I attempted to imagine my made-up world, the magic was fleeting, and that in itself makes me want to weep. I didn't realize how this question would affect me. I thought it would be fun until I couldn't see my possibilities even in my imaginary world. Processing this question became incredibly more difficult when I thought about how the black mother has to adjust her children's perspective at age 5 so they can safely attend kindergarten and not be harmed while away from her. I can't answer this type of question because just the idea makes me feel worse, knowing I might not ever achieve a glimpse of the what if I was loved, valued, and safe.
Jen Moore, Seattle. Let me get better. Imagine a world where I am safe, valued, and loved. Sensitivity would return to the deepest reaches of us. There would be lunch breaks to stick your face in the sun and calisthenics to get us moving and flowing together. In my world, all the babies would be loved. And when the new little ones were born into the world and into my family, we would revel in the darkness of their skin and praise them for reminding us of who we are. We would love the dark in my world. We would love in my world. I will keep imagining until my story is clear, until my vision comes together.
Shayla Tumbling, Atlanta. There are many ways in which I experience living in this type of world currently. I have pockets in all aspects of my life where we are moving together in our individual journeys, offering support and love and guidance to one another as we move. I imagine this type of community continuing to grow exponentially so that it is not isolated to tiny pockets, but actually becomes towns, cities, clusters of cities and states, and then full countries. In this place, I am free to be myself in all of my imperfection and awkwardness, yet am held with love, compassion, and authenticity.
Tyler Cahill Maxey, Chicago. I imagine a world where queer babies run wild into the ocean. I imagine a world where queerness is everything and everyone. I imagine a world where pink is blue and blue is pink. I imagine a world where our pain is connected and our liberation is free. I imagine a world where peace is the origin of our hearts. I imagine a world where little boys can wear glitter dresses. I imagine a world where we slay every day. I imagine a world where black babies aren't killed because of their flamboyance. I imagine a world where little black gay boys can prance in the moonlight. I imagine a world where we each don't have a gender or color to represent our essence. I imagine a world where black gay boys are leaders and achievers. I imagine a world where we each have ample opportunity to grow, prosper, and flourish. I imagine a world with pink tutus on black boys. I imagine a world where glitter falls from the sky. I imagine a world where love truly is love.
I imagine a world where love truly is love. I hope there are pockets of that for all of us, as there were for Shayla Tumbling.